Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session of Community Office Hours. My name is Caitlin Croft. I am part of the Influx data team. So I'm super excited today. We have a few people on the phone that will be talking about Influx Templates. So we have Michael Hall, who is our community manager for our engineering team. We have Johnny, who is one of our engineers, and they will be co-presenting on Influx Templates. And we'll just give everyone a couple of minutes to join. So we'll just go through a few housekeeping items while we wait to get started. So this session is being recorded, so it will be up on YouTube later today for you guys to watch again. As well as this is Zoom, if you see there there's a Q&A box, so please feel free to add any questions you have during the session there, and we will answer them accordingly. And also if you have a bunch of questions you want to ask our panelists, we're happy to unmute you so you can have a conversation with them. Just a few other housekeeping items. Just friendly reminders, we have our community Slack channel, which is a great resource as we have community members, Influx data employees. We're all in there answering questions and learning from each other. So it's a fantastic resource, as well as our actual online community and our docs and trainings. So we're always there wanting to help you guys out as you guys are figuring out the product. So this is your time to ask as many questions as you like to our panelists. And another little reminder, we have Influx Days London coming up in June. So be sure to check that out. We're still looking for call for papers. So if you're interested in presenting on cool things that you're doing with the product, be sure to go and check out the Influx Days website. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it off. We're a couple minutes in. So once again, everyone, welcome to today's Community Office Hours. We have Michael, Johnny, and Jade, who will all be presenting on Influx Templates and are here to answer your questions. So without further ado, I will pass it off to them.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Caitlin. As you mentioned, I'm the new community manager on the engineering team. I've only been here about a month, but my goal is to bring some of the community engagement opportunities to the engineering department inside Influx. So we've always had the ability for people to contribute directly to InfluxDB and our products. They're all open source. But we really haven't built programs around contributing to the periphery of that, things like add-ons or extensions or building solutions that happen to incorporate InfluxDB and supporting the community around those. We did have some good examples that I was able to base my work on. For example, the Telegraph community is very vibrant. They can contribute directly to Telegraph itself, but they can also develop what are called plugins, and these give Telegraph the ability to read from different data sources and different data formats and get that data into InfluxDB or some other source, not just InfluxDB. So there was a very vibrant community that was built up around extending the functionality of Telegraph in this way. And also I looked at Grafana, which is, it's not one of our products, but it's one that we work really well with. And a lot of people have developed these dashboards for Grafana that use InfluxDB as the source of their data. And these dashboards, they solve common use cases, so they can share them with other users, and other users can take advantage of the work that's already been done and not have to reinvent that wheel. So kind of using those two as guides for my first project, what I've been working on is the ability to create what we call Influx Templates. And a template for Influx is the dashboard, it's Telegraph configurations, it's tasks and alerts and buckets and anything that you can configure inside the InfluxDB interface. Johnny's going to be talking about it in a little bit, but we've added the ability to export and import these configurations we wanted a way for community people to be able to share those setups that they've built, share those common use cases with other people, so that we can build on these things together. We can iterate through them, make it better for everybody that way. So just announced, actually just this morning, the announcement blog post went out. We have opened up a repository on GitHub for this, and I'll be going through that in a little bit. But first I wanted to have Johnny kind of give a background on what templates are, how they work, what kinds of information you can export with those, and ways you can configure that. So Johnny, I'm going to hand it over to you to give the kind of technical background.
Great, thank you, Michael. Yeah, the primary use case for templates are being able to create resources inside of the platform, InfluxDB platform. That could be labels, buckets, dashboards, telegraph configs, you name it. There's 9 separate ones that are supported at this time. And this is a mechanism for basically describing a state of the world, and then the API will just take care of it. So any type of issue that may come in, they have to do with like managing partial applications. What do we do in that case? We absorb all that complexity on the back end, so that the user only has to just submit a request and wait for the response. The rest is taken care of by InfluxDB itself, the platform. And this provides a means for either committing your resources. Say you want to have this stuff local and commit it into your repository as infrastructure as code. You can do that. And you can also share these with other people as well, because you're not providing any specifics, any ID specifics or anything like that. You're just declaring the identity of this resource, and then InfluxDB will just create it for you. And from that, we have a bunch of different tools to enable that. We have the CLI interface, and we also have the HTTP API. And what's wonderful about Influx Templates is you get a lot of information. When things go wrong, you get a lot of information to correct those things. And I'll showcase that here in a sec, if I can. Yeah. And then like, this is just an example here from Michael. I'll pass it back to you, Michael, to talk to this one here. I have some more stuff on my local here I'd like to demonstrate how you can actually work with Influx Templates and take advantage of what we already have out there today.
Do you want to screen share?
Absolutely, that'd be great.
I will stop screen sharing.
Perfect. Cool. So I want to just demonstrate a couple things here. One, this is my InfluxDB instance. This is brand new. I just nuked it. And there is nothing in here but a single bucket. No dashboards, no tasks, no, just a single bucket that I used during the setup API. And what I'd like to take a look at is, this is an actual template here. It describes, this is a JSON file, if you're all familiar with that. And it's an array of a bunch of different resources here. I have a label and 3 buckets. And within each bucket, I can have an association to a label. So that bucket gets associated with that label that is being described there. And that can be n number of labels that you'd like to associate with this bucket. And then to use the Influx CLI, it's very simple. I can just do -f. I can look at this file. And the first thing it's going to show me is a dry run. So it's going to say, is this new to the platform? In this case, yes. How do we determine if it's new? The name is unique for labels for an organization inside of the Influx database. And with that, we can identify, is this a new resource or is it not? And the column here just indicates true, yes, or new, true. And then we also have 3 buckets here, and then the mappings between the buckets and the labels themselves. And this same way, we can have, instead of having a file here, we can also use the Influx package uses a URL. So if I want to provide a URL, this is the exact same package in a URL. It's packaged up there in a gist up in GitHub. And it's the exact same thing here. So I can actually look at this, dry run it, and look at everything that's about to be done. And it allows me to confirm this yes or no. We have mechanisms for taking away the UI as well. So if I just do --force and provide the correct value it's looking for, it'll just apply it for me if there are no conflicts and so forth. But in the same line, I can also add multiple things here. So if I wanted to add the root here, it's going to ask me, for one, I have some dynamic content there by the root label. So I can just provide this label ID here, or label name, just something generic. And what I've been able to do here is take the URL, take the file here that's on my local, and I can mix and match these any way I want. And what's cool about this is a JSON file, this is a YAML file. You can basically bring your own encoding, and we should be able to kind of work with that. And then it's going to do the exact same thing. It's going to guarantee it in the same way that would guarantee a single package being applied. And basically how that all works is we start with a manifest of sorts. In this case, it'd be a YAML file. We send it through the HTTP API, and the service gets it and it validates it. Is this a valid YAML? Then it's going to dry run it. And then if it's only a dry run, say I hit the API and say this is just dry run. So I can get pretty much details of what this is going to look like when I actually apply it to the platform. And it's yes, I'm going to return the summary and the diff. And the diff is basically describes the difference between the new package or the new resources in this package and the existing resources, if any. But if I also encountered an error in the validate stage, it'll also return it here as well, alongside the summary and the diff. We're going to provide you with not only like what went right, but also what went wrong in this case. But to proceed to actually apply that, no errors can exist. So there needs to be no errors when we dry run it. And every file, every packet, every manifest that you submit that's going to be applied will always be dry run first. Because what we end up doing is provide a mechanism for rollbacks in case we encounter an error during the application of any resource within this package. So if I have 3 existing labels and I'm changing them to have a different description or a different color or something, I need to know what that previous state was, and this is what the dry run guarantees. So whenever I encounter an error here, I roll back all the side effects that had actually taken place during the application of this package, and then return the error to the user so they can make an informed decision on how to correct that. And if not, I just return a summary of what all was applied. And that's basically everything that has to do with packager. All that complexity is going to be bundled up and hidden behind the server so the user doesn't have to worry about that. But that's basically all I wanted to share, Michael.
All right, can we go back to the slides?
Yes, let's do that. Send it back over to
Johnny, yeah, you need this up. There we go.
Sure, no problem. Give me 1 second. Do you guys want to be on slide 4 or 5?
Let's actually go back to slide 3 just so I can talk a little bit more about the program. Okay, so as Johnny was showing, we can export these things. There's actually 3 different formats, I believe, that we support right now. And Johnny can correct me if I'm wrong, but you can use YAML or JSON to just export a straight declaration of your configuration that you already have. So if you build up something in a live instance or in our cloud instance, you can just export that directly as it is to a template file. Or you can take a more programmatic approach, which was what Johnny was showing with the JSON app, where you can actually, write out what's essentially programming commands to build up a template on the fly. And then that can be run by the user to build that up in their own instance. But the main takeaway is that you can provide all of these configurations and interconnections that you need to solve a specific use case into a reusable file, something that you can share, something people can use, they can improve on and iterate on. So we created this this new GitHub repository. Can you go back 1 slide? So we've taken a real lightweight approach to make this available. We just created a GitHub repository where we are going to collect these templates from our own engineers and from people in the community, just to make it real simple to get started. If you go to the link right here on the page, it'll take you to the README, which kind of introduces it. We've also got a list of the templates that are there. We've preceded it with 3 templates based on some common use cases that we have seen ourselves and that we already had a good configuration set up for. So we've got a template to monitor InfluxDB 1.x. So if you're running an old instance and you're just getting started with InfluxDB 2, this is a good way to get you started. So you can spin up a version 2 of InfluxDB, or you can use our free cloud offering. We've got a free tier that will work well for this if you're not already using it. But you can use InfluxDB 2 to monitor your current InfluxDB 1 instance. This will provide all the different telegraph configurations that you need to pull data off of that. It provides dashboards. I think it also provides like some alerts or something if something's going wrong, but you'll have to double check with Russ. So each of these has a different author. Russ works for InfluxDB. If you've been on any of these office hours, you've probably seen or heard him talking already, but he's really active, and he provided these kind of seed templates for us. One that I really like, and one that I wrote a blog post about that was out this morning, is the Linux system monitoring. This is a very common use case. If you've got a Linux box in production running really anything, you kind of want to keep an eye on, what's its CPU doing, how's its memory usage, is it running out of disk space, that kind of thing. And this template makes that really easy. It's actually just 2 steps to get this running. You apply this template, and it provides you a dashboard with all of your different metrics displayed in graphs and the raw numbers of it. And it provides you a telegraph configuration so that you can just go to any of your Linux boxes, install telegraph on there, and just point it to this configuration, and it starts working. So that makes it really, really easy. Can we go on to the next slide? So each of the templates inside this repository is going to come with its own home page, which gives you an idea of what you get out of that. Sticking with the Linux system monitoring example, like I said, it comes with a telegraph configuration. It comes with some buckets predefined that the telegraph configuration is going to start putting data into. It comes with a dashboard that's going to use data from those buckets to display your metrics. And then it also comes with a variety of labels that really helps you kind of keep track of your resources if you have quite a number of things going on in the same instance. All of these things are in the same manifest file. So basically, Russ took this setup that he already had, and he exported the template using the influx package command that Johnny was showing earlier. And it produced a file with all this data in there. We added a variable so that you can point it to any kind of InfluxDB host that you want really easily. So you can deploy this to InfluxDB Cloud. You can deploy it to Influx running inside Docker. You can deploy it to Influx running directly on bare metal. Works the same way no matter what. So each of these templates is going to provide this useful information at the start, screenshot, information about what it's going to create, setup instructions. So in this example, you can kind of see on the page, there's certain environment variables that you need to set up to make it easier. There's also instructions for running your telegraph configuration, which is also really easy because your telegraph configuration gets stored in InfluxDB, and you can just tell telegraph to fetch it from there and start running. So we've got these 3 kind of seed templates going in there. I'm going to be recruiting more and more of these templates, both internally in InfluxDB and also from our community. The process for submitting them is really easy. You just export your current configuration as a template, or again, you can build it up in JSONnet as Johnny was showing. You get this file that you can use, you create a README with instructions on how to use it, and you just make a git pull request to this repository. Once you make that pull request, there's a handful of us that will be watching for those. We're going to review them just to make sure that you provided enough information in your README file for users to get it up and running. We're not going to do a whole lot of feature validation on it just because that's going to slow down the process, and it'll end up taking quite a bit of manpower if this really starts to take off. So we're keeping it very lightweight for now. So you create a PR, we'll review it in just a few days, and if you've provided everything that's needed in there, then we accept the PR and it gets listed on that homepage, and then people can start using it. And that's really the goal of this, is to try and make these configurations almost like an app that you can just install on an InfluxDB instance. Users can install that. If it does something, or it doesn't do something specific that they want, they can make changes to their configuration. They can re-export it. They can either submit it as a brand new template, or they can submit it as an update to your template so that you get the benefit of any enhancements that they're making too. So it's really, it's an open source project. It's got that open source spirit of working together, building stuff, iterating over it to make it, to improve it for everybody. But we're just doing this with these configurations instead of with like the InfluxDB code itself. We have different places where you can talk to us about this, and I think we're going to get to that in some later slides from Caitlin, where she goes over our different community sites and how to get involved. But I encourage you to join those. We are very active in Slack, especially. Johnny and I are both in there and are happy to answer questions about templates and InfluxDB in general. Right, so if we can go to the next slide. These are just some generally helpful links. As we've been talking about, the community templates is there on GitHub. That is the main project page. Our long-term goal is to build more of a featureful directory or store kind of website around these. But we didn't want to wait for that to exist before we made this available to the community. So we started out on GitHub. We'll stay there until we've got a better site to come along, and then we'll migrate our templates over to that. So there's where you go to find them. It's got all the instructions you need. If you run into any problems, you need help, pop on Slack and give me a ping on there and I can help you out. This is all powered by the influx package command. So we've got documentation there to how to use that. This is the command you use both to import a template into an instance and also to export a template if you've already got a setup that you like and you want to just submit that directly. And I mentioned that we had an announcement blog out today. That's that third link there. That actually walks you through step by step using this Linux system monitoring template specifically. So it's an easy way to get started. Just about everybody's got some kind of Linux machine available or can spin one up in a cloud really quickly and get started with this, with some monitoring. So that's a real good real world use case that makes it easy to get started trying out templates. All right, do we have any questions so far? Caitlin, I'm not familiar with the webinar interface, so if you could check for questions for me.
Totally fine. Yep, I'm just checking right now. While people are thinking of those burning questions they have about Influx templates, thank you both for going over that. We'll just go through a few friendly reminders for the community where they can find helpful information. So first we have our community forum, and it's a really great place for all users to be able to come and find support help, share ideas, and ask questions. Here's a question. Do you have any recommendations for the types of templates we should get started with?
Yes, actually, can I screen share for just a second?
Absolutely.
All right, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the GitHub repository, and what we've done is we're going to take template requests through issues. So if you click on issues, we've got one right now from Molly, who is our design research lead. This is one of the things that has come up in her user research that people are interested in. But if you have a specific use case you want a template for, you just come to the issues, click on create new issue here, and you can create a template request. And that's just going to ask you a couple questions about what you want the template to show and what you want it to do. And then people who are looking for a new project to take on, they can come to this issue list and they can see, you know, what people are requesting, get some more information on them if it's not real clear what they want, or just dive right in and start building that for them. So again, this is all brand new. We've only got the one here, but we will be adding more to that as people come in to our community and say, hey, can we get a template for this or for that? We'll direct them here to create a request to do that. I know that some of the other things that have come up were tracking like stock prices or cryptocurrency conversion rates over time. So if anybody is interested in those spaces or knows some data sources that they can pull from, even if they're not publicly available data sources, you can put in your README, how to sign up for a service, what the cost of that is, and then provide the configurations necessary to pull from that. So those are two that have been requested. Different monitoring systems, so monitoring like web servers, monitoring Kubernetes clusters, any kind of DevOps deployments that you want to keep track of would make really good templates. And then of course IoT is becoming really popular, and that's something that a lot of people are doing kind of even as a personal project or a hobby. I've got several different IoT devices that I use. I know some of our developer advocates also do a lot of IoT stuff. So, common use cases, if you've got something that monitors your, I don't know, hydroponics system or, your electrical usage. I think somebody at Influx has got solar panels that they track that I'm going to try and get them to make a template for. It doesn't have to be broadly useful. If it just helps one other person get up and started, then, you've made that person's day. They're going to talk about it and share the template that you made with their friends or their coworkers. And they might contribute something back that makes it better for you also.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. Another great question. Are there any best practices that you can share on how someone might convert their Grafana dashboard to an InfluxDB template?
I don't know if Johnny can speak to that. I've not tried that before. You don't have to convert. If you want to continue using Grafana, you can still use InfluxDB with that. You can use the pre-made Grafana dashboards and then use a InfluxDB template to build like your bucket and your telegraph configurations for the back end, and just ignore the dashboard part if you wanted to do it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Because templates aren't limited to just buckets, labels, and dashboards. There are a lot of notifications and notification alerting systems that you can actually set up in a programmatic way now, so that you don't have to go on through and check all these different things yourself. You can just do the point-to-clicky thing and just apply it, and then they're just there. But replacing Grafana, we don't have an easy means for that just yet.
And as Johnny was saying, there's quite a bit more you can do with this. So here's an example of the Linux dashboard. This is just running against my laptop, pushing into the InfluxDB cloud. And just to give you an example of what these dashboards are. So in addition to collecting the data and putting it in a bucket, it also provides these Flux queries that actually build the graph itself. You can reuse these, and Flux is, it can go beyond just doing queries. I don't have an example here, but you can create tasks that get run on, different rates, different time periods to aggregate data or process data. You can set up alerts so that if CPU gets too high or you start running out of disk space, it can send you, like a Slack message or something warning you about that. And all of that can go into your templates. So, like Johnny said, it's beyond just dashboards. It's an entire useful configuration that you get out of this.
Yeah, the main point I was trying to make is just that you can use it alongside Grafana still. You're not forced to use just InfluxDB to use the templates.
Yeah, right. So you can use, like I said, the buckets, you can use tasks, you can use alerts, and then you can just have a Grafana dashboard as an additional resource in your template. So that's something I didn't mention, but when you submit a template into this GitHub repository, you're not just submitting the template file and the README itself, but any additional resources that your setup needs. So if you're using Grafana on the front end, you can include the Grafana dashboard configurations as part of that PR so that the user gets all of it in one package.
Perfect, thank you. Another question here, are there any templates that Influx Data will be releasing soon? This might be, they say it might be helpful for them.
I don't have specific ones. There are several people inside InfluxDB that I'm going to keep poking every so often to get them to submit. But I don't have any like time frame or any specific use cases for that. I know one of our developer advocates, David Simmons, does presentations at conferences around IoT devices that I'm going to try and get him to submit a template to. I think we've got some Kubernetes monitoring that we use internally that I'm going to try and get converted into a template and published, but I don't know like I said, I don't know when that's going to be or how much is going to be in that. So really don't worry about duplicating efforts. If you've got a setup that you want to share or a use case that you want to try and build a setup around, just go ahead and do it. Don't wait for permission. Don't worry about two people submitting the same thing. It's fine if there are two similar templates in the directory. Either they serve slightly different use cases and different people will find them useful, or we can work together over time to merge them into one super template that does all of it.
Fantastic. So I will just go back as people keep thinking of any interesting questions. I'll just go back to our friendly reminders for. So once again, we have our community forums. So it's a great place to come if you're looking for support, ask questions, answer questions, or share ideas with other community members. We also have our community Slack, which Michael has mentioned. It's really great. There's so many different people in there asking questions, answering them. So it's a really great resource if you're learning more about InfluxDB or the entire tech stack. You can go in there and find information about different meetups that we have. So if you're interested in attending a time series meetup and you're wondering who's there, who's presenting, it's another great resource for that. So if you're trying out our cloud product, it's really fun to see people chatting with each other, and we're always in there trying to answer each other's questions.
And we do have a community channel in there now that I actually just renamed from a different one last week. But so I created the community channel to give us a place to just kind of socialize. So even if you don't have a support issue or you don't have technical questions, but you want to just kind of come in and introduce yourself, talk about what you're doing with InfluxDB, find out what other people are doing, or even just meet some of the engineers involved. Join the Slack, join that community channel, and introduce yourself to us.
Perfect. And also another little heads up, in the community Slack, you'll see a lot of us have the little Influx Data logo. It's either blue or black. That just signifies that we work at Influx Data. Not that there aren't amazing community members who know just as much about the product, if not more, depending on the area.
I actually need to get my little icon on there. I'm not sure how, but I joined the community Slack before I was an employee, so I kind of have my user grandfathered in there.
We'll have to get that set up for you. We also have on Reddit, we have our subreddit. Just to let you know, it is not the most active channel. However, we do know that a lot of our users are on Reddit, so we just like to make sure that we're there for you guys. Next, just a few more reminders of community resources that are available to everyone. We have our community showcase, which is a central area for all things community. So we'll list upcoming events where Influxers are going to be. If we have a DevRel speaking at an event or a conference, it'll be notified there. We'll also list upcoming webinars and interesting articles that have been shared by the community, as well as other links to other initiatives that we have for our community. So it's a great resource if you're looking for ways to connect with the community, or maybe right where you live or online as well. We do have these community office hours every month. So we have different people from Influx Data come and present on different topics. So be sure to check back and see what we will be presenting on next month. They happen every third Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. So if you are interested in learning more, or if you want to ask more questions, please feel free to come back every month. We're always excited to see community members return. And lastly, just another friendly reminder, we have Influx Days London coming up in June. We're always looking for awesome speakers. So if you're interested in speaking and talking about how you're using InfluxDB, please check out the website and submit a call for papers. That deadline is coming up soon. We're having a lot of fun seeing what people are doing with the product. It's always, that's the cool thing about open source tools. There's many things that we know you guys are using it for, but then there's other things that we couldn't even imagine that people do with it. So it's really fun seeing what people are doing with it.
I think that deadline is coming up in early March, right? The
Yes.
CFP deadline. Right.
I believe
so get your
yeah.
talks in as quickly as possible.
Yeah. It's so much fun. Like, you know, people see each other from last year and they start hanging out again, or, you know, we see people that we recognize from previous years. So it's a really fun event.
It'll be my first Influx days, so I know that I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, good. And you'll get to meet lots of people that you've been talking to on Slack. Great. Do you or Johnny or Jade have anything else that you would like to add about Influx templates? Any tips or tricks or any ideas that you guys have had that you'd like to share with the community?
I like building
I'll let Johnny or Jade go first.
I really enjoy building what I'm going to export in the UI itself, and then export it, and I can have it locally. So for me as a developer or someone who's standing up code to run on a server somewhere, I can just provide that package and it just does the thing, and I don't even have to worry about it. I love that. And getting to that point, I use the UI to do most of all that. Hand jamming it isn't as fun.
I just want to reiterate, you know, join us on Slack. You know, Johnny's on there. His username is @Berg, and he's really been, you know, driving a lot of the technical work that has made this all possible. Super responsive, loves to help people. So join the Slack. Come talk to us there. And if you have any ideas for other community programs, you know, not just the templates, but you know, anything else we can do to improve how the community can get involved with InfluxDB products and projects, ideas for, you know, even new office hours topics that you want to hear from us about. Slack's a good place to let us know about those things too.
Absolutely, yes. And for those of you who are interested, this webinar it's been recorded and it will be posted to our YouTube channel by the end of the day, so you'll be able to go back in and watch it again. If there aren't any more questions, that will wrap up today's session of InfluxDB Community Office Hours. Thank you, everyone, for your questions, and we look forward to seeing everyone next month.
Thank you, Caitlin, for hosting this, and thank you, everyone, for watching.